Hello and welcome back to our NHS Pensions podcast series, where we take each topic of the NHS Pension Scheme and break it down for you to help you manage your pension, plan for the future and understand the scheme. Today, I am joined by two members of the NHS pension team. We've got Angie and Darren here with us today. This episode is going to focus on the benefits that are available to your family if you were to die whilst actively contributing to the NHS pension scheme. So let's kick off straight away with what sort of overview can you give us about the benefits that might be available to a member's family if anything were to happen to them whilst they were an active member of the pension scheme?
Well, there's three different things really that you could apply for should somebody pass away whilst they're an active member of the scheme for the family to apply for. So there's death in service benefits, there's also an adult dependence pension and a children's pension if the member was eligible for those.
Okay, so if there's three main things, could we break each one down and just have a bit more information? So we started off by saying that this is for active members of the pension scheme. So somebody that's currently contributing towards the NHS pension scheme and something were to happen.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the lump sum.
So the lump sum and death on service is for actively contributing members who were to pass away whilst they were a member of the NHS pension scheme and in NHS employment. The death in service lump sum is usually twice the member's pensionable pay. And the member can nominate somebody or people or an organisation to receive that death in service lump sum in the event of their death. If the member is married or in a civil partnership, they don't have to make that nomination. It will automatically go to the spouse or civil partner. However, if they wanted it to go to their children or to a friend or to one organisation, they could complete a nomination form so that that member is nominated somebody or people or organisation to receive their death in service lump sum.
And you mentioned children as a plural, so can you split this lump sum between different people, different children?
Yeah, for sure. Up to, as long as the amount that you're giving each person or people equates to 100%. So if you've got 4 children, you can give them all 25% of your pension.
Okay. Now, in terms of we talked about the active member, but I just wanted to touch on something. Is everybody covered for death in service when they are an active member of the pension scheme from day one?
So yeah, it's something that you are covered from your very first day of NHS employment. So your death in service lump sum starts from the very first day that you're actively contributing to the NHS pension scheme. You don't have to have the 2 years of membership like you would have to have with previous, to claim an actual pension. That is a benefit that starts from the first day of NHS employment once you're in the pension scheme.
And what would to happen if you were an irregular worker? You know, you worked on the bank or you were a locum worker?
So there are different rules and criteria that are set out for bank staff or if you're working as and when or a GP locum, and there is more information available about the circumstances that those people can claim death in service on the website.
So we talked about the lump sum. You said there were 2 other provisions in place. Let's have a little look at those now. What are they?
So there's the children's pension. So if you have any dependent children up to the age of 23, they may be eligible to claim a children's pension in the event of your death. If you have any children that are over the age of 23 but are still dependent on you, so say, for example, they have a disability, they're relying on you, they would still be eligible in some circumstances to claim that children's pension beyond the age of 23.
It sounds like the key is in the word then, if they're relying on you, if they're dependent on you.
That's it for sure, yeah. They have to be dependent on the member who's passed away for that children's pension to be paid.
And that child doesn't have to be a natural child either. It doesn't have to be your actual child. It could be a niece or nephew that you're financially responsible for as well.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Sarah. My next question was going to be, do they have to be your biological child? But it sounds like that's not the case. Could they be an adopted child as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's any child under the age of 23, as Anne said, that's actually financially dependent on you, so you're financially responsible for that child.
So we've got the lump sum on death, and that can go to anybody, and you can nominate somebody as well. Then we've got the children's dependent pension that's for children that are dependent upon you, and that's got its own criteria, like you said. What's the third provision that's available for your family if something were to happen?
So that would be the adult dependence pension. So that's something that would be payable to your spouse or your civil partner in the event of your death.
What about if you weren't married to that person, but you lived together?
So again, that is an option to put that forward for that person to claim the adult dependent pension. And there is a form that you can complete if you haven't nominated that person, a partner nomination form. But we don't need to have that form, but it is something that will make the process much smoother when they come to claim in the event of your death.
So if you were in that position where you were with somebody, living with them, say, for example, you had a mortgage or a rental agreement, and something were to happen, if you'd nominated them, the process would be easier. But if you hadn't nominated them for the adult's dependence pension, and that's key here, then they would still be entitled to that, would they?
Yeah, they would have to provide a lot of evidence to show that they were interdependent financially on each other. But that is something that they could still do. It just helps the process if they have completed the form to nominate.
Okay. So talking about all the different things available, we've got the lump sum, the children's dependence pension, and then the adult's dependence pension. And these three things are available to somebody's family if something were to happen to them and they were actively contributing to the scheme.
That's correct.
Yeah. When it comes to the lump sum, could we just get a bit more information about that? So obviously this would go to either a family member or somebody that they'd nominated. But are there any options for whoever receives that lump sum to refuse it and instead ask for a larger pension?
No, it would be the amounts that would be payable are the amounts payable. There isn't any options to amend that amount that is payable.
Is there any tax implications that somebody would need to consider with a death in service lump sum?
There could be. Everybody's tax situation is personal to themselves. So if anyone was unsure, there is information available about that on our website, on the NHS Pensions website. Or if they were unsure, they could also contact HMRC directly. They would be able to assist them with any tax issues that they have in relation to their pension.
During what is going to be a difficult time for these family members and friends of the members as well, what's the first step for them in order to start looking about how to claim these benefits?
So obviously the first thing would be for them to contact the member's employer to let them know that they've passed away. And the employer would then work with the member's family to complete a death in service notification form, which they would then send through to us. The employer would send through to us at NHS Pensions, and we would then calculate what benefits would be available to the family members that are left. We would also contact the family members directly if we needed to.
And once everybody has been told about it and the forms have all been processed, who is it that sends those forms over to NHS Pensions?
The member's family would send them directly to us at NHS Pensions, and we would then obviously process everything that they sent through to us so that those pension payments could start being made.
And do they need to keep NHS Pensions up to date with their details as well? We've talked in previous episodes about the importance of keeping your contact details up to date. And is that still relevant in this situation?
It would be, it's really important that anybody who's getting any kind of a benefit from the NHS Pension Scheme keeps us up to date with their personal details so we can let them know, we can write to them when there's any changes or there's going to be anything that they need to know about the scheme going forward.
Thank you for joining us today and for talking to everybody all about the family benefits that are available. If you head over to the NHS Pensions website and look under the Member Hub, you'll find all the information we've talked about today. If you've got any feedback on the topics you've heard today or any suggestions about future topics you want us to do an episode on, please send us an email to the Stakeholder Engagement team. And finally, just hit subscribe to wherever you listen to your podcasts for any future episodes of the NHS Pensions Podcast. That's all we've got time for today. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.